our slogan. We say that HIV/AIDS stops with me. If you can say this, and then you can be able to take a stand with us that says, if I have HIV/AIDS, I will not spread it. And if I don't have HIV/AIDS, I will not acquire it. HIV/AIDS stops with me. Brought to you by Collaboration for Restoring Families Incorporated and this radio station. Together, we can.
Let's face it, losing a loved one is hard, and the grief that is put on your family can be troublesome. We strive to make the hardest time of you and your family's life the easiest. We want your loved one to be sent off the best way possible with only your interests at heart. Let's allow the bereaved to breathe easy by calling Fuller Brothers Funeral Home 954-366-3758. That's 954-366-3758. Life goes on, but live easy knowing that your loved one is in a better place with Fuller Brothers Funeral Home 954-366-3758. Let Fuller Brothers family take care of your family. 1805 North Dixie Highway. The number again, 954-366-3758.
This is Maurice Griffin, and you're listening to Guts with Nikki V.
Party. You leave the drama home and decide that you're gonna be happy. I love this holiday, but every day I'm celebrating. More than just one day, I'm lifting up my hands and praising. 'Cause I've got a reason, you got it, we all have a reason and a chance to throw our hands up and dance.
It's a celebration, y'all. Right now, it's your chance to clap your hands and do your dance. It's a celebration. Paul Golette III and Christmas this year, right here on Guts Gospel United Say, bringing the information needed for transformation within South Florida and all over the world. Variety talk show with a Christian point of view, hoping that you will have the guts to tell somebody about Jesus. The number to call to join in the conversation, to listen up, to listen in, to give you a prayer request. 877-217-5375. That's toll free, y'all. 877-217-5375. It's a celebration, and I would love for you to celebrate with me. By the way, you tune in to Guts Gospel United Save. I'm Nikki V, and it's our desire that you would have the guts to tell somebody about Jesus. We're in the book of John, chapter 1, at verse 14, just before we enter into Ephesians, chapter 5. That's where we'll be going next. But right now, we want to close out our John segment of this study. And we're closing it out with verse 14. It says, "And the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." Now, if that ain't something to celebrate, if that ain't something to give a shout for, if that is not, for those of you who are freaking out about ain't, if that just doesn't happen to be enough to get you riled up and shouting, then you ought to check your juice meter. You ought to find out what you got going on, because you might be someone who's just bent for darkness. You might be someone who doesn't have any light in them at all, and that'd be a bad thing. It'd be terrible to be somebody that doesn't have any light in you. This statement right here ought to make you shout all over the world. It ought to make you just get happy. After all, the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. This is the reason why we can celebrate. He gave us the ability to be able to do the things that we do. He empowered us by coming to be like us and demonstrate unto us, model for us what it's like to walk in this earth, submissive unto God, obedient unto God. Anyway, so if we're reading John 1 as a story, we would be surprised at the plot turn here. For the light of God to vanquish the darkness of sin, we might expect to read of some cataclysmic cleansing that burns sin out of existence. But instead, John tells us that the word takes human form and becomes flesh. Yeah, you're thinking, hey, blaze of glory, it's over. No. Well, now we can't fully understand how the Creator can be encapsulated in the form of a creature, but that is the message of Christmas. When God comes in the flesh, an event we call incarnation, that does not mean that the power of God's light is minimized. Because again, darkness can't overcome light. Light has to be turned out. It has to be turned off. It has to be removed. But it cannot be taken down. It has to be, and in the turning off and the turning out and all, that is done by not darkness, but the light. Light goes out because the person who has the light turns it out. Oh, what you say? I'm just saying. Now, John's word pictured, we beheld his glory, evokes an image of blinding light. John is an eyewitness. Now, today we can behold God's glory through the eyes of faith. God is revealed through Christ, his Son. Jesus reveals God's glory in his words and deeds. The power of the enlightening message of Jesus is in the splendor of the truth it reveals. The message of God's love and the salvation for all men and women is one of grace. So, just stop for a moment before we transition and begin to think a little bit, because we got to go into Ephesians, but we're going to transition and just stop and think. How does the fact that we do not serve a distant, impersonal God affect your life? Just meditate on that for a moment. How does the fact that we do not serve a distant, impersonal God affect your life? How does it affect the way you pray? The example that you set, does it affect that? Have you thought about what kind of example you'd set if you realize that God is not that far? He's right here with us. When you realize that he's not that far, does it affect how you pray? Or do you pray, God, come from yonder to hither? In our speech patterns, do we talk about him as being some abstract thing distant from us, not interested in our affairs, and hopefully, maybe he'll just, breathe on us for a minute? How does the fact that we do not serve a distant, impersonal God affect your life? It ought to be motivating. It ought to be moving. It ought to create in you a desire to live for him. It ought to create in you a desire to do more than you ever thought you'd do. It ought to create a desire in us to want to be all that we can be for him, knowing that he's not far, that he's nigh us, even unto our mouth, even unto the things that we say. So what have you been saying lately? Have you been saying anything worth anything, or has your conversation been rooted and grounded in some crazy stuff? What have you been talking? What are you calling to yourself, if you will? What are you bringing to the head? And what are you allowing to survive? It is entirely up to you, but you've got to make up your mind what you want to do. Now, just a little quick news you can use, something I found interesting as we close this out. Heat used strong fourth to beat the Wolves. And the Wade James carry Heat to a win against the Timberwolves, 103-92. And just a quick brief talking about it. I'm glad that they did it. But Miami blew open a close contest with a 17-6 run in the fourth quarter as they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 103-92 behind a 24-point performance from Dwayne Wade. LeBron James finished with 22 points and 11 assists for the reigning NBA champion Heat, who captured the fourth victory in 5 games. Chris Bosh also scored 15 points to help the Heat prevail in front of a crowd of 19,862 at the American Airlines Arena. The Heat won despite being out-rebounded by 52-24 and outscored in the paint 58-36. At the end of the third and fourth quarter, our offense was much more efficient, said Miami coach Eric Spoelstra. So we thank God for that. We thank God for you. We're getting ready to transition out of here and do some other things, so we hope that you will stick with us. The number to call to stick in the conversation, to be able to hear what else is going on, to be able to stay with the series, 877-217-5375. That's 877-217-5375. I'm Nikki V of Guts, Gospel United Save, hoping that you will have the guts to tell somebody about Jesus. Matter of fact, I hope that you'll spread the word about this, so that somebody in your church or your community or your place of business can experience this free bounce house and DJ.
This DJ Device. I want to know who will be the next winner of the free bounce house and DJ house party. Courtesy of Rhythm and Gospel and a Kick Zone in a lot of And here it is. This week's winner, Church of God in Christ in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It was lots of fun, lots of music, and lots of bouncing. Playing the hottest music on the planet, R&G. So, who will be the next free bounce house winner and DJ? Make sure you get the number to text or email and say, we do. That's right.